All right, so most people think early retirement is some far off dream only for the lucky or ultra rich, but what if you're actually much closer than you think? So after working with some people in the retirement space and running my own consulting business on it, I found that there are 6 specific signs that show that you are on track, even if it doesn't feel like it. And if you're experiencing even 3 of these, your retirement might not be years away. It actually might be right around the corner. Now, before getting into the 6 signs, I want you to go into this with a certain story in mind. So this story, it's actually from a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And the story is called 3 Feet from Gold. Maybe you've heard of it. So how the story goes is there's actually these 2 men that's during the whole Colorado gold rush era. And these 2 men, they thought that they were going to be the next one to find their fortune during the gold rush. So what did they do like any other logical person? Well, they borrowed money to purchase equipment and started digging their way to riches because that's the brightest thing you could do in that situation. I don't think it worked out for them very well. So what ended up happening with them? They actually had some initial luck they found a shallow vein of ore where there was gold in it. But the thing is that actually ended up disappearing on them. And following that, they continued to drill for weeks with absolutely no results. And because there was no results, they were growing more and more discouraged, and they both ended up throwing it in the towel. And to make things worse, they were only able to sell the equipment that they purchased to some junk dealer in town for pennies on the dollar. Now, that junk dealer, he had actually heard about some of their initial luck. So what do you think he ended up doing? Well, he ended up hiring a mining engineer to study the land where they had been digging. And what do you know? They discovered those 2 men, they had stopped just 3 feet away from the richest gold vein ever found. Now tell me that doesn't suck. So the lesson you should take from those guys is that most people quit right before they have a breakthrough. So keep going because your gold might be just a few feet away. So with that, here are the 6 signs that you may be closer to early retirement than you think. So sign number 1, say you're in a situation where you have passive income that already covers, say, 50% or more of what your annual expenses are. So these are expenses like they're your must-haves, your rent payment, your monthly housing payment, groceries, basic living expenses. Now, obviously, you have to live life. So when you factor in your discretionary spending in there, say your family vacations, stuff like that, you do have to live life. But if you have that number of what your annual expenses are, and you have 50% of that passively coming in, this really means that you're partially funded if you were to never clock in again today. Now, obviously, I'm not advising that. But the reason why I bring this up is if you're at that 50% mark, that is substantially better than almost everybody. Like very few people are at that point where they have 50% of their annual expenses covered by passive income. And when you have accounts at that stage, the compounding of those accounts just happens that much faster. When you have those higher balances, the compounding really kicks into high gear. Now, what do you do in this situation? So this situation, either 1, you work more to increase the amount that you're putting in there, or 2, you leverage into higher returns. Now, there's only one of you, and time only becomes way more scarce as time goes on. And believe me, I've got 3 kids. Time is a hot commodity. So that brings us to sign number 2. So sign number 2, say you've secretly reached coasting financial independence without even realizing. So what does this mean? So this means if you stop contributing to your retirement account today and you didn't contribute for the remainder of your life, that compounding alone of what's in that account would fully fund you to the traditional retirement age. Traditional retirement age is obviously late 50s, early 60s. Now, obviously you have to have your account invested appropriately to accomplish that. But this concept, it's called FIRE. So financial independence, retire early. And now what this concept says is you figure out what your annual expenses are. So say you have $60,000 a year, that is your annual expenses. That covers everything. Your bare necessities as well as your discretionary income. You multiply that by 25. That gets what they call your retirement number. So 60,000 times 25 is 1.5 million. So what that means is if you hit 1.5 million in your retirement accounts, or say your retirement accounts and equity in rental properties that you have, something along those lines, it doesn't have to all be in there. As long as it's invested, if you hit that number 1.5, that means you can retire at that point in time and live the rest of your life off of the interest of those accounts. Now, obviously, there's caveats to this. You do have to have it invested appropriately to accomplish this. But this is a cool concept if there's something that you're looking to retire early. If you want to get to that number, really every new dollar pulls you that much closer to retirement. So how do you get there faster? Well, self-directing is the answer there. So, or at least for me, self-directing is the answer there. Because why? This is your unique advantage. You're going to be investing in something that you know, and When you're investing in something that you know, where you have a unique advantage in that field, say you work in that field, you're going to be privy to items that a lot of other people aren't, and you're likely going to get higher returns. For example, I earn my money outside of retirement within real estate. That's how I earn my money. So it only makes sense that if I'm going to increase my returns in my retirement accounts, I invest in real estate in there as well, because I know for sure that I'm going to make more returns, and I do make more returns than I would if I was to leave it in Wall Street. So with that brings us to sign number 3. So say your emergency fund is equal to a full year of living costs. So you're completely liquid at that point. You've got a full year of living expenses. You're good to go. Now, first off, I would argue, I'm not really sure you need a full year. Again, it's what you're comfortable with. Me, I think 3 months is probably sufficient, but a lot of people, I mean, if that makes you super comfortable, 12 months, first off, that's awesome. If you have that, that's great. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is, in this situation, what this does is it gives you the ability to invest way more aggressively. Now, some people think that self-directing is investing more aggressively. Now, what I think is, if you're self-directing, you're actually investing smarter, because you're not letting Wall Street do whatever they want with your accounts, and you have zero clue or zero attachment on, hey, am I really going to make money at this? If you're self-directing, you are in the driver's seat, and you are going to invest in what you know, and very likely get much better returns if you do it right. So that brings us to sign number 4. So say you're in real estate, and the equity in your rentals plus the retirement accounts top that 25x rule. So again, you've got equity in your rental properties over here that have a substantial balance on them, plus you have your retirement accounts or your retirement savings over here, and that is equal to that retirement number that, say, is your annual expenses multiplied by that 25x. So if you're at that with your equity in your real estate and your savings in your retirement account, then guess what? You're at the stage where you could retire now. That's an awesome place to be in. But guess what? To sweeten that pot even further, one, you should have purchased one of those rentals within a self-directed retirement account or tax advantage retirement account, to where you would be in a situation to where you're not having to pay as much taxes on that. And guys, if you don't have one of those rentals in a retirement account, then guess what? Now's the time to purchase one. And within that retirement account, because it's going to make your retirement dollars go that much further. So it's awesome. So that brings us to sign number 5. So sign number 5, say you're in a situation where your savings rate sits at 40% plus, even after you factor in those family vacations, the splurges. Again, with that, if you're in a situation where your income that you're bringing in, so this is your net income, and 40% of that you are stowing away and putting into retirement, then at that point, there's studies that are out there that where every time you save at least 40%, you're buying back roughly 10 months of your future freedom. So that's bringing your retirement age 10 months closer. So again, the more you can compound on that, the more you can save each year. This is how you can really get your retirement sooner than you think. And how do you accelerate this? You guessed it. You use a self-directed retirement account. At least that's how I do it. So that brings us to sign number 6. So sign number 6 is, say this is a situation where you've already rehearsed retirement. So you actually have a situation where work is kind of partially optional to a certain extent. Now, what do I mean by this? This is like, say, if you have the ability now to take sabbaticals in your job, or say you're in a situation where you're a teacher where the summertime you're not working, if that's a capability for you. Or maybe you're in the oil industry and say you've got a shift where it's 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. In those situations, which I know people in these situations where you're 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, you're really only working 6 months out of the year when you add everything up. So if you're in that type of situation, really what you can do is you can take those sabbatical times and you can go all in, lock in on your learning on self-directing, and take that strategy to the max and make those rehearsals permanent. So this is a really good situation to be in, because you have 2 weeks fully dedicated time to really hammer into this strategy and just skyrocket your returns in your retirement. Again, investing in what you know. So if you recognize even one of those signs in your own life, congratulations, because you really are much closer than you think. But what you need to know is this video is just the beginning. So I've developed a full roadmap, the same framework I've used to fast track my own retirement. And it goes way deeper than what we just covered here on strategies that I've used and still use today. So if you want to learn more about that and more about how I can help you put your retirement account into high gear through self-directing, then click on the first link in this description. That way you can book a call with me and see if we'd be a good fit. And if that's not for you, that's totally fine. Watch this next video where I show you how to supercharge your tax-free accounts. And with that, thanks for watching, guys. Catch you on the next one.